In this video, we're going to be doing a full tutorial targeted for beginners on how to actually use Zoho CRM. So for those who watch a lot of our videos, you'll probably notice that a lot of them are about the configuration and how to set up and customize the system. This video will be a little bit different in that it's mostly targeted at a user and what a day in the life should look like for one who is using Zoho CRM. As before I jump in, I do want to ask, if you find the video useful, please be sure to like and subscribe down below. Leave me a comment if you've got any questions or feedback or topic requests for a future video like this. And as always, just head on over to Zenatta.com and click on book a meeting if you'd like to talk about how we can help on your Zoho installation. So without any further ado, let's jump right on into Zoho CRM. Here we are inside of Zoho CRM. I am using the new interface where the modules are over here on the left. If your CRM looks kind of like this, that would just mean that you're in the old UI. No big deal. The main thing to know is just that the modules here are going to run across the top. So leads, contacts, and accounts up in this top left. Whereas in the CRM for everyone or the new UI, they run down this left-hand side. I'm going to be doing the walkthrough in this UI, but everything is essentially the same other than just a few little look and feel components. First off, let's go through some of these core modules and I'll explain not just that they are there, but really what they're used for in most instances. So here, starting off, of course, is our homepage. In an ideal world for a user of the CRM, this is the first and primary place that you're going to go to see everything that you need to do. Right? So this could be everything from little process areas like adding a deal to your pipeline, looking at some reporting like, hey, how are the deals in my pipeline looking? How many exist in each various stage? And then looking at particular lists of data, ideally things that are a priority, right? So here I have a list of partner leads. If this is on my homepage, it's probably because the leadership team has indicated that, hey, chasing these down are particularly important. We'll also see data about tasks or different activities that may be needed. Do keep in mind your homepage may look just a little bit different based on the particular types of data and processes that your CRM is operating. But in a general rule of thumb, it's going to be a place to see some of that high-level data via reports and dashboard components, as well as particular records from modules. Now, I've said this word module a few times already, so let's go ahead and define it. Each of these components over here on the left, so leads, accounts, contacts, deals, each of these are what are called modules. A module is basically a type of data, right? A type of thing, entity, object, whatever you want to call it, that exists inside of the CRM. To give a definition of a few of these important ones, let's run through a few. So, first off is leads. This is one of the most important sections inside of a CRM. A lead is essentially a person at a company who you may do business with, right? So I have their name, I have the company they work for, I should have some contact information for them. You can kind of think about this like a business card for a particular interest or person who is interested in doing business with you. In an ideal world, leads don't stay leads for too long, right? We put them through a process, whether that is sending them emails, giving them phone calls, sending out SMS, if that's applicable for you, with the goal being getting to a point, whether this is a Zoom call, a phone call, even an email exchange, that essentially qualifies their interest, right? So what do we mean by qualify their interest? As we're looking at a particular lead, what we're trying to do is figure out, hey, what are some of their requirements? What does their business look like? And are we a fit to service them? And so to support that, you'll ideally have some fields on this page that can help you do that, right? So down here, we can see I have this section called account information. And as I am working on this lead, maybe I now got them on the phone, I'll start clicking and typing in to determine the specific things that I need to know about this particular account. Right? So as I'm going through this list, I'm making those determinations of one, are we a good fit to help them? And two, are they a good fit to be helped by us? And that's going to look different for different people, right? So with what we do inside of the Zoho world, there are certain migrations that we don't take on as clients. And so in our process, we're kind of identifying some of that information. We're taking down any notes and details, and then we're making the determination of if they're going to move forward or not. Now, as we're looking at a particular lead record, I want to show you some of the most important components that you can do to help manage this process of chasing them down and qualifying them. So over here on the left, we have this little section called related lists. One thing I always like to highlight, a lot of people will scroll to get down here. You can do that, but you don't have to. You can just click and it'll navigate you to each of these different sections. Now we're going to cover a few of the most important. So the notes section is essentially a free form section to take any notes that are needed. Nice thing about notes is that they don't have a lot of requirements about what needs to go in them. You can @tag different people in your organization such that they are notified, and then you can save these into a running list of notes over time that capture the history of your engagement with that particular record. I do want to highlight notes are great if there are things that you need to know for your qualification process. Ideally, those are going to be added in here as fields, but these are a nice little backup plan as a place to put that other more contextual information. As we're working on records as well, we can attach files. This could be a blueprint that they sent you. This could be a quote that you sent them, but all of these can be uploaded directly into the record and stored there for future usage. So to do that, of course, I can upload from a bunch of different cloud services, whether that's OneDrive, Google Drive, Dropbox, etc. Or I can just go ahead and click and drag in a file and upload it directly to that record. Then it will be stored here indefinitely unless it is removed in the future. I can download it. I can use it from here. Next up, we're going to go down to this activities list. So activities are an interesting little section. As you'll notice over here on the left, they are their own module. So I have a tasks module, a calls module, and a meetings module. But what I will highlight is that they are generally used in connection to another record, right? So we're not just going to put into the CRM that we have a random task. We're going to say, hey, I have a task to follow up with this lead. I want to have this task done by, let's say, middle of this week. I can assign it different levels of priority. I can make sure that I get reminded of this task. So maybe I want a little screen pop up on that day at 9 a.m. Like, hey, I got to get this done today. In here as well, we do have a couple other fields if we need them. We can type in descriptions and then, of course, statuses that associate to this task that we can move through as we're working on that particular work item. So once I have this created, it will store related to this record, and it will show up here inside of the lead, as well as in places like my homepage, where I have lists of all of those various tasks. So I do always recommend, as you are starting the CRM, try as much as possible to commit to using these tasks. Things like calls, meetings, and tasks are going to help you manage your workflow. And they're going to make sure that from a management level, people are able to see that, hey, we're doing this outreach, we're chasing them down. Here's all of our work logs about what we've been working on to try to get this lead to either engage with us or potentially give us the follow-up information that we need to move forward in the process. So I can't say it enough, and I'll probably say it a few more times in this video. Really try to commit to using these tasks. At the end, I'll kind of tie it all back together into why I hold that opinion so strongly. So make sure to stick around for that. Down here below, one of the last ones I do want to show as far as the leads module is concerned is the emails list. So the emails list is a great thing inside of Zoho CRM. There are two different ways to use emails. One, you can send an email directly here from inside of CRM and use templates to accomplish that. So let's say I have my lead here and I want to go ahead and follow up with them. I can choose from a bank of templates. And when I click this in, it will drop in that template language right on into the email for me. And I don't have to retype this every single time. What we'll notice is that some of these fields, like their first name and their company name, can pull directly in using what are called merge fields. We have other videos on the channel showing how to create those templates. Again, our goal here is to focus on using the CRM, so we won't cover that now, but these are very quick and easy to add, and then they can be used as needed. One thing I really like about these is that you can always make additions or subtractions to them. So if I wanted to add some additional language unique to this lead, I can do that before sending out the email. Now, once I send this email, this is going to bounce because this is just an example email address, but I'll always be able to see the history of all of my email communications. And then if they were just sent, opened, clicked, or if that email address was invalid and it bounced, just like will happen here. Now, one other thing I do like to highlight is that you don't have to send all emails from CRM. It's kind of a good idea to start an email thread from inside of CRM whenever possible. Benefits there is, again, just knowing if it's been opened or clicked. But if this lead were to reply back to you, and then you just responded via Gmail, Zoho Mail, Outlook, Office 365, you pick your poison, the IMAP integration will be able to bring in all of that back and forth so that no context is lost. So I'll tell you, one of the things I always do, if I have someone who reaches back out to me, right? Let's say I talked to them 6 months ago, and then maybe the deal just never happens. It wasn't the right time. Priorities changed. And then they reach back out and say, hey, Tyler, like, I'd love to circle back around on this. First thing I do is I go to their record in CRM and I take a look at these emails, because whatever happened 6 months ago, just being honest, I probably don't remember it that well. The good news is I don't have to. If I'm tracking everything in my CRM, I don't need to remember because it's all in here. I remember each time that I followed up with them because I have my tasks. I remember all of our back and forth communications. If we had any meetings together, all of those are going to show up directly inside of my CRM. So I don't need to make those guesses or, dive through my email and see if I can sort out every different thing that happened. Everything will just be here sorted chronologically. I can just open it up and get right back up to speed. So I do always really strongly recommend using this emails related list, trying to use those templates as much as humanly possible, and then making sure that we're tracking things via tasks, calls, and meetings as well. Now, I'm going to show a few things looking at the leads as a list, because this is also one of the important ways that you're likely going to use your CRM. So as we're looking at the list, we can see we have these 10 different leads. Over on the left-hand side here, we have what are called quick filters. These are essentially a quick and easy way to search for a field. So let's say something like status. I'm going to add that to our view real quick here so we can take a look at it. Status is a very important field for our leads module because our goal is to kind of move them through one status after another. So what I can see here is I have my set of statuses that are associated to each of these leads. So things like junk, contact in future, I got a hold of them, I tried to get a hold of them, but I couldn't, or attempted to contact, maybe not contacted, like I haven't even talked to them at all. But let's say I want to come in here and I want to see, hey, do we have any leads sitting in our list right now that are pre-qualified? Meaning, hey, maybe they came in through a particular form on the website that they would only have found if they're a really good lead, right? So they're very high priority. They've kind of pre-qualified themselves. I can apply that filter. And now, just like that, this one lead is going to show up because it's the only one that satisfies that particular lead status that I had added. Now, as you're using the CRM, what you're probably going to find is that while you can always use your quick filters, there's going to be certain views that you pretty much know you're going to be using often. If you do have some of those, it's a good idea to create them as what's called a custom view. So if I were to click into this all leads section, it'll drop down and it will show you all of these different views of the leads module. Down here on the bottom are a bunch of standard ones that are just deployed by the system natively. And up here at the top, I've created a couple examples. So if we look at these, a few that we might be aware of, if we have any leads that are high score, meaning they're opening a lot of emails, they're interacting with a lot of your marketing, they may show up there. Uncontacted leads is a really nice one as well. An uncontacted lead is going to be a lead that has some type of lead status that indicates that we've not yet gotten a hold of them. And what I've done here is I've added a filter so that they only show up if this last activity time is sometime in the past. So if I go ahead, we're not going to go too far into configuration, but it'll be useful for you to see this. The way that I'm setting these up is I'm basically saying, hey, show me leads where lead status is not contacted or attempted to contact, and where that last activity time is at least 7 days in the past. And so what that does is it creates a list where I have these leads that I know I need to chase down. If I go ahead and open one up, I'm going to open as a new tab here. And let's say that I gave them a phone call, right? So I came in and I logged that a certain call had occurred. Now, a lot of the times these phone calls are going to be logged based on your telephony system. Pretty straightforward to integrate those. But let's say I gave them a call this morning and maybe the purpose was prospecting and the outcome was, no response. So let's say we didn't, in fact, get a hold of them. The second that I log this call, I may also, in this case, I would leave our status here. If they were not contacted, I'd probably move them to attempted to contact. In this case, I attempted it again and they didn't answer again. So I would just leave it in this current status. But now if I come back here and I refresh, that lead has been removed from this list. Now it's not gone forever because in 7 days, it's going to show right back up here because now that last activity time is far enough into the past. So our goal here as we're looking at our different custom views is to create different categories based on status, based on source, and also based on particular dates to essentially create my working lists. So if I'm a salesperson and I'm doing some of my outbound, I want to just go list by list and kind of work through each of these, right? Another example would be, hey, I have a list of partner leads. Now, in this case, I'm basically looking at non-junk leads where the source is partner and where I haven't reached out in 7 days. So again, as I work through this list, they'll remove themselves temporarily and then they'll pop right back in once it's been enough time between now and that previous follow-up. So you may now be wondering, well, you're talking a lot about these leads and trying to get in touch with them and chasing them down. Well, what happens when I do, right? You're the dog chasing the car. What happens when we catch it? Well, the goal there would be to have that meaningful conversation and figure out if they're a good fit. Now, if they are, up here in the top right, we have one of our favorite buttons, the convert button. The convert button is basically going to assist us in transferring this data from the leads module, again, which is a person at a company who's interested in doing business with us. We're going to convert that company into an account. We're going to create that person as a contact, and then we can create a deal for their interest in doing business with us. Right? So as we go through, we'll go ahead and create each of these records in the appropriate modules. So I'll do that conversion process, and now we can see each of these has been created and is ready for us to work on. So what happens next? Let's go ahead and take a look here at our accounts. So if I open up an account here, what exactly is this record? And I'm going to toggle this into our standard view. So an account is a company. As we would expect, a company might have employees. Those are going to be the contacts that are linked to this company or account. And then they'll have those potential opportunities to do business, right? And those are going to be tracked as our deals. Similarly to the lead that I showed you, you'll have a bunch of different fields on the page. Each of these can just be clicked and typed into easily as we're learning more information about this particular account. As we click down the page, we'll have access to just easily open up our deals and our contacts and get into those records specifically. So let's take a look at a contact now. This record, very similar structurally to a lead. It is a person. The only difference is rather than just having a text field for company, it has a lookup field. So as you see these fields that have blue text in them, what that basically means is it is a link to another record. So if I were to open this up in a new tab, this will get me right back to that account that I just had open. And as I look at the deal, it'll be a blue link as well, which will open me directly to that record. Now, we're not going to go too nitty-gritty here, but I do want to explain one important component. You'll notice that those two different fields that have the links are stored in different places. One of them is stored in a field for account name, and then one of them is stored in one of our little related lists. What's the difference? So what this means is that the account is a parent record of a contact, meaning inside of one account, I can have many different contacts, but each contact is only going to be linked to one account. So I put that relationship into just a single field. Deals, on the other hand, isn't quite the same. A deal record would be a child of both a contact and an account. What that means is over time, you might do many different deals with those same people and same companies, right? This could be a, new build out and then support contract later. This could be a deal that you lost and then they came back later and you opened up a new deal to work them through that process to see if you can win it this time. So these are very important relationships that live here inside of the CRM. Now over here on the left, again, you're going to have a lot of really similar sections. So you're going to have notes, attachments, activities, emails, right? Each of these are going to be very consistently shown across the majority of the system. Now, let's get into likely the primary record inside of the CRM and definitely one of the most important, the deal. All right, so let's spend a little bit of time talking through the deal record. Oh, the almighty deal. So the deal record conceptually basically just means the potential sale and the process around that potential sale to a client. Now, when that sale is won or lost, the record will stay in here as a deal. Sometimes you might be using a deal to actually fulfill as well after the deal's been closed won, but you can always kind of think about this as the sales module, right? So we start with that lead, but again, they don't live here that long. We work them through, we get them qualified, then we're going to move them over to that deal process and manage our steps in more detail from the deals module. Up at the top, you're going to see this kind of step-by-step view. These are what are called deal stages. So as we're thinking about our sales pipeline, we're going to break that down into a set of stages that represent our process. So in this case, these are just the default ones that I have inside of Zoho CRM. These can be customized and set up however you need them based on your particular process. As I click through these, the stage will change, the probability will change, and the expected revenue will also change. So what exactly do those mean? Inside of our deal, we have a handful of very important fields that we're going to go over one by one. So first is going to be the amount. As you know, when you're in this initial couple stages, you don't really know the amount, right? Most of the time. Now, maybe you're a business that just sells a fixed package, right? In that case, great, you know the amount. But a lot of the times when you're doing like a needs analysis, when you're still qualifying, like you don't exactly know everything that's going to be pitched and included inside of this deal. So what you're going to do is put your best assumption based on what you know so far. This is a number that can change throughout the course of the process. Now, probability and expected revenue, what you'll notice is that these, if I click on them, I can't actually just change these. That's because they're calculated based on the stage that we're in. So as we set up these various stages, we associate the probability of closing them, and then the expected revenue will just be calculated based on the amount times that probability as a percent. So as I move down my pipeline, probability increases and my expected revenue also increases. The idea behind these fields is really so that as a salesperson or as sales management, we can look into the future with forecasting tools and get an idea of what we expect to have closing in terms of our revenue within certain date periods in the future. Of course, probability is not an exact science. A good practice as you're kind of determining which probability should be associated with each stage is to look at some of your historical data and see what it actually is. So for us at Zenatta, I know based on my historical data what percent of deals will close just based on when they were created and based on the ones that we've sent proposals to. So if I'm looking at our active pipeline and let's say my operations team is like, hey, how busy are we going to be next month? I can give them a decent idea, right? Now, again, there's always variability in these numbers, but the goal is to get them close so that you can make informed decisions about what you need to do in the future and what you need to do in the present. Now, you might be thinking, well, how would I actually know when one of these is going to close? The goal there would be to use this closing date field. So closing date is essentially a date that you set up to determine when you expect this to close. Now, keep in mind, as we're in these early stages, how accurate is closing date going to be? Kind of accurate. The goal is, as we're getting to the back half of this, like, hey, we've sent them a proposal, we're negotiating contract terms at this point, you should be able to update this closing date to get it increasingly and increasingly close to the real date. A good practice as well is that once you win or lose a deal, make that final update just to make sure that the system is 100% accurate. So those set of fields are very important. They're kind of the cornerstone of the deal. We're putting in that estimated amount, we're tracking it through stages, we're forecasting our future based on probability and expected revenue, and we're determining when that future is going to be the present based on our closing date. Now, just like all my other records, I do have an emails related list here. I do, as always, really recommend using this. Here inside of my emails related list, it's very quick and easy for me to come in, drop in those types of templates that I was showing you in the lead, and send those out. So important step. I will actually highlight inside of the deal record, I think it's even more important to initiate email threads from my emails related list, because when we have the IMAP integration turned on, where it's going to be syncing in from your email client, it's going to do a really good job at always associating those emails to leads and contacts, because their email address is just on the record, right? It's just going to match those and bring them right in. But in a deal, it's a little bit less precise. What the CRM will do is it will essentially look at the content of an email and determine, hey, is this deal related? 9 times out of 10, it's going to be right. But if you initiate the thread using an email via this list, it will always track this entire thread back and forth over the next month inside of this deal so that I have that easy visibility. Last thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to show you 2 more modules that connect to the deal. So over on the left, we can see we have transactions, right? You can think about these, they're like a bundle of modules similar to activities. So from my deal, I can go ahead and create quotes that I send out for the client to take a look at. I can add in any of my products and services and things that might be relevant for this particular transaction. Now, in this case, I do also have some additional features set up that will do some suggested selling and things like that connected to my deal. Regardless of how you're going to use your quotes module, it is here just connected directly to our deal record so that I can track over time. I've sent them all these various quotes for these different amounts, and each of those is going to be connected here underneath my deal. I always like to show the quotes module because you might be using quotes, you might have a custom module, you might send things more as like proposals rather than quotes, but I do really like the process of having a list, right? Because I could have multiple quotes here. So let's say we had example quote number 2, and in this case, we're going to pitch them a different option. And so from my deal, I can see that I have these 2 different quoted options that have been sent out. I can see what stage they're at, and I can track the total of those quotes if they were to be accepted. And so this deal kind of serves as that home base record where I can store all of the various things that are relevant to me as I'm working them through this particular process flow. Now, real quick, I'm going to create a task next to this deal just so that we can follow up on this quote. And let's say we're going to do this by end of the week, and we'll go ahead and create that. Now, just like in my leads, it's very common to have a set of custom views inside of my deal page so that I can see what's going on, right? So here I'm looking at deals closing next month. That one that I just created is closing next month, so it's going to show up here. As I'm actually using this from really any of my list views, I can click on the 3 dots and send email, create tasks, kind of work through this record however I need to, either from here or again, just by clicking directly into that record to work on it from there. Similar to my leads module, I also have the ability to filter by any of those fields, just quick and easy over here on the left, for things that might not need an entire custom view, just something that I need off the cuff every now and then. Let's go back to our homepage so that I can really make my point about why tasks are important. Down here at the bottom, under our open tasks list, what we can see is that I have a set of open tasks, right? These 2 that we created, follow up with this lead and follow up on quote, but one of them is connected to a deal and a contact, and the other is connected to my lead. So tasks are the grand unifier. There's a lot of different places that you might be doing work inside of the CRM. You might be working leads. You might be doing deals. You might have a task to follow up on a quote. You might have a task to check in on a valuable customer account, right? There's a lot of different activity that you might be doing across each of these different modules. What's important is making sure that it all gets done, right? And so if you're consistent in using the tasks, then you can always go to a list of tasks, whether it's in the task module here, and move them through statuses, or I can see them on my homepage. As long as my homepage has been configured to include them here, I can see everything that I need to do across all the different modules all in one place. So I know I've talked about it a lot, but I always just like to highlight there is a really high value use case for these tasks in that ability to see everything that I need to do all inside of one place. I think we've covered the core here of our modules. So we're going to jump into reports and analytics next, and then we can wrap up for this video. So reports. As a user of CRM, you're going to have a set of reports that have been created and deployed for you. A lot of reports come out of the box, right? Most of what you're seeing as I click through these sections on the left are default reports that are just out of the box with CRM. What you'll also have is generally some reports that have been made for you, right? These would be made by sales management, leadership, and ideally, these are going to highlight some of the important things that you need to be looking at. So I have this report here, my open pipeline. I can click right into this. This looks familiar, doesn't it? It's from our homepage. And down below, I can see each of my deals based on the stage that they're in. This has been filtered to be open, so we're not going to see closed won or closed lost. And each of these are grouped by their amount with some sums and data about them. Now, these reports update immediately. So let's say we were to go in and let's say we won this deal. We're going to say, hey, it's for San Diego, California. And I save this. This deal is now closed won. Well, when I come back to this report, initially it's going to be here under that, this deal here that we created that's going to close on July 18th. Once I refresh, boom, it's gone, right? So these update immediately. You'll be able to track all of your records and where they're at in the process with any of the groupings and data visualizations that you need. Up here in the top left, you can also apply additional filters. So if you did care about maybe just looking at deals for a certain type of customer or that are closing within a certain time period, really anything that's a data point related to that deal, those are going to be available for you as quick filters as you're looking at this page. Last but not least is going to be the analytics section. So analytics is basically a place where different types of reports and dashboards can be created and shown for the team. So again, a lot of these are just going to come out of the box as native dashboards, but your leadership team or management have likely created some that are going to demonstrate different components for you. So here we're looking at, hey, leads that were created by month. You can tell we turned on this demo account in August of 2020 because a bunch of leads were created then. And then some leads created in January with these various lead sources. And so these different dashboards are just going to give you graphical views into what's going on inside of the CRM. Ideally, they're going to be grouped by different process areas. So we're looking at like reports about leads. We're looking at reports about deals. Maybe we have some activity data like tasks and calls. Different teams are going to have access to different dashboards here. These are going to be created and deployed. And then from our dashboards, we can go ahead and actually take these and embed them directly onto the homepage. So if you look at this pipeline funnel in the bottom left, this is the exact same thing that shows up right here. So we have different types of views where we can get into the same type of data just based on our preference of where we'd like to see it. Now, last but not least, we're going to rapid fire through a few little additional features that I think you're going to need to know. So down here in the bottom left, this little add new button. This is your quick way to add a record into any module that you need. So if let's say I got off the phone with someone, they're going to be a good lead. I can go ahead and add that good lead directly to my system. And I can type in any of the data that's needed. Now you can tab through these fields or you can click into different ones. Either are going to be fine. But that unified button is going to give you a way to create these across the entirety of the system. You'll have your calendar in here. You can check any of those emails once you have that integrated. And now let's actually show how to connect some of those dots. So inside of the settings, if I were to search email, I'll see email configuration. And then if I go into this email tab, this is where I can come in. It'll be a little window where it'll say, hey, do you want to turn on an email integration? You'll say, heck yeah, brother. You'll click on that. You'll open it right up. You'll drop in some of your credentials from things like Gmail, Outlook, 365, whatever you're using. And then that will turn on the integration such that any of your emails back and forth with the client are going to show up here natively for you to see inside of CRM. Additionally, in this email section is where you can drop in your email signature and set up some of your default settings around fonts and text and sizing as well. Now, we're going to go into another section here for integrations. I promise this isn't as scary as it might sound. If I go into this marketplace tab, so this little house here, under the Google and Microsoft sections is where we can sync our contacts. I normally recommend syncing one way, from Zoho to Google or from Zoho to Office 365, and just keeps things a lot cleaner. You can also sync your calendar. Now here I actually recommend the opposite. Go from Google to Zoho or from 365 to Zoho. I do that because most of the time people prefer to schedule meetings on their calendar rather than inside of Zoho. But having that integration means that they're still going to show up. So I do always kind of recommend setting these up. Again, check with your admin team, check with the IT team, make sure that that's something that is relevant. Again, if you can turn those on, the beauty is if you do have a meeting with the lead, you don't need to come in here and add it, right? It's just going to be here natively without you having to come in and type in that meeting actually was scheduled. With that, I think we've covered kind of the core elements here. Again, just as a quick recap, homepage, this is mission control. This is where you're going to live on a day-to-day basis as long as it's been configured. Leads are going to be those business cards. These are potential people who maybe you've not quite qualified, but you know there could be an interest there. Accounts are going to be the companies that you work with. Some of them might be customers. Some of them might be prospects. Contacts are going to be the people at those companies. Again, where you might have many contacts at one company. Deals are the primary record for moving a transaction, a sale, an onboarding, right? Whatever it may be for you through a defined set of process areas and steps. Our activities, breaking down into tasks, calls, and meetings, are the things that we do to chase down a lead and to move a deal forward. And then, of course, our transactions are an easy place to send out quotes, sales orders, and invoices. Reports are going to be rows and columns, things that you want to see broken down. And analytics are going to be charts and graphs, right? Things that you want to see visualized. And with that, I really do hope that this video is useful. This has been one that I've been planning on making for a little while, so I'd love to get some feedback down in the comments. If you made it this far in the video, let me know what you think. Is this useful for you? Are there any other videos like this that you'd like us to create? While you're down there, go ahead and like and subscribe if you did find the video useful. We've got tons like this, as well as on the back end doing configuration and setup that you'll likely find valuable. As always, my name is Tyler Colt, and I will see you next time.